Hello and welcome everybody to Around the Battleground. It's been a hot minute. It feels like. Well, I guess it's only been a week for everybody else. It's been a couple weeks for me because it's been pre-recorded content. So it's good to be back. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. If you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you just had a great week this last week. And we have a lot to talk about. Last week we had the interview with Rathan. It was a really good interview. It was one of my favorites that I've done in a while. I think going forward into the off season, I'm going to try to do a few more like that and see what I can do. Obviously, pros are a little bit busy trying to get on the teams and everything. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end. And then next week's episode will focus heavily on season 7 changes and things. But we hopefully going forward, it's a long off season. We'll have a bunch to discuss come about February ish. Because that's when the CC bracket and everything will start, and we'll talk about the season 7 competitive changes and everything. But until then, hopefully we'll be able to do a bunch of interviews. After this week's episode, it'll be kind of light in the news category unless we start getting roster breakdowns. I know they had like 30 days to get them done, so they should be able to be done by the new year. Whether or not we get informed of what those rosters are is a whole other process. So let's talk about Worlds. This was probably one of the most hyped Worlds in a while. Coming off of the year we had, this was obviously like the most competitive year we've had in Smite to date. It really was an amazing year for Smite. A lot of good teams, a lot of good competition, and a lot of teams from like the minor league showing up, and a lot of like talent that wasn't in the SPL showing that they should maybe be in the SPL. So it was really cool to watch that. Our first game of the tournament comes from Rival Sanguine. There was a glimmer of hope that maybe Rival played down to the competition here. It was a pipe dream in all reality here. But there was the idea that if Sanguine was able to put together the roster that they wanted, if they were to get, the Hell, the Jingwei, the Rat, all of these picks that Sanguine are known for running, then maybe they can make it work. Even with, without your hardcore running with the Chaddix, maybe they can make something happen. And they weren't. They got kind of crushed, is it being nice in that regards. They got handled. There was the question for Rival here was, can they hold up to the hype that's been built around them? This is a team that hasn't exactly met that over the course of the last 2 years. When you look at like who the core of it is, they've always kind of had troubles and have fallen short. So is that something that was going to happen again? Were they going to play down to Sanguine? And, if Sanguine was going to get a win, that first game was a really good one to take. But they end up, they fall to Rival in pretty quick succession, a 20-minute game. And then the 30-minute game coming out in the second one, they make it a little bit even. They make it interesting. Sanguine, I think, with this performance has shown that they deserve to be in the SPL. They deserve a lot more credit than what they're getting. What makes that interesting, too, is that they have shown this back-to-back at LAN without Yarkor in that soul lane. And that's what makes it troubling for me. What do they do moving forward? Do they make roster changes? Do they keep Yarkor, or do they try to pick up another soul laner? I mean, do they just run with Haddix at this point, right? There's a lot of interesting variables there. Not to mention, does everybody here just pack it all up and move to the United States for the year, for the season? There's a lot of questions here, but I do think that Sanguine probably should get a spot in the SPL, and their effort needs to be rewarded. They showed a lot of heart going into this set. They made it to Worlds. This is an SML squad. This is a squad who has grinded for forever. And there was all they were known in like the inner circles as a team that was only gonna come up. And then there was that preseason tournament where they beat Baskin and then his team, and they got a squad because of that. I'm pretty sure Sanguine was supposed to pick up another team, and then they dropped that team for what is now Sanguine, the LATAM players. So to see them go from that to not even having a team to getting picked up to then making it to Worlds, it's no easy feat. Really proud of those guys and really excited to see the amateur scene of Smite being able to compete and kind of go out and swing with the big dogs. Obviously, would have been better. I don't think there's any reality really, unless Rival completely implode, that they get the set win. But I think there's a reality where they get a win in the set. They get a match win. I think that was doable. I think that was within their grasp. Rival came out and took care of business though, so you can't undersell what Sanguine was able to do, nor can you kind of undercut that Rival came in and executed on the hype and what they needed to do. Our other games in the quarterfinals, we had Dignitas and Picture Night. This one was a little more touch and go. Game 1 goes to the Pittsburgh Knights, and the Dignitas roster just looked bad. This was the worst I've seen them play in just a long time. They let PK basically do whatever they wanted. They didn't play the early game. I don't understand what happened in this game. This game shouldn't have been as close as it was. Roe came out on the Cerberus and did a lot of work. There was questions on what Roe was going to be able to do. Did ban away the Yorming because maybe Roe's a one-trick Yorm. He did pull out the Chang'e in the prior weeks, but is that going to be effective and a strategy if they want to employ at Worlds? Who knows? Stick to what you know, ban the Yorm. And I don't feel like they just did enough to really put him down. Beside that, Roe just had an insane game. They didn't win through him, but they won because of him. If that makes any sense, like the win was built on his shoulders. He did a lot in that game to facilitate and just outplayed Variety, quite frankly, and outplayed Dignitas in a lot of spaces to allow and set up the PK roster to maneuver and get what they wanted to get. This was a dirty game. This is, if you are a Dignitas fan, this was exactly what you feared most, that they would come in and all of the growth that we had seen at the end of the split was false promises, that we weren't going to really see anything out of them. There was the question, are they going to play down to PK? Are they going to let PK kind of get some stuff that they wouldn't normally get? Are they going to play a really safe, non-optimal comp so that they don't show anything going into the next round? All of those are questions, right? And I think some of that is true, that they were really inflexible with what they wanted to do. They wanted to maintain as much of a they wanted to make sure that they didn't show their hand too early. And I admire that. But at a certain point, it just, you got to show what you got, right? Like your back's against the wall. You lose game 1, and then what? They get the schnot beat out of them that first game. They go reeling. They almost lose the second game. It was really close. I mean, we go from a 25-minute game to a 45-minute game. Shouldn't have been that long to begin with. Dignitas do come back, look better in the third game, but this was a fight through and through. PK was never really out of it until the third game. Game 2 probably should have went PK's route, and Dignitas probably should have been knocked out of this tournament in that game 2. If I'm PK, I'm looking at this as a huge win. Like this is nobody could have thought that they were going to do as well as they did here. Rowe coming in as the player coach, and then I believe Adapting's wife, Adapt Queen, was doing like the coaching behind the scenes or something. I think that's what we saw. So, nobody expected PK to come in here. Dignitas were heavy favorites, especially after their last week where they turned around all of their problems seemingly and played really strong. They didn't show any of that going into this PK game. And this is what, we first caused doubt on whether or not Dig was going to be able to do it. They almost choked in the first round. They didn't. So there was hope that then, okay, they got it out of their system. The boys recovered. They've broken their curse. Right? We're feeling good. We're feeling like they can go on and make some noise in the tournament. Maybe they've got the ants and the jitters out of the system. Maybe Dignitas can settle down and return to that form. Moving on to our next game in the quarterfinals, we had Splice and SK. Splice, one of the favorites. SK, one of the teams that made it through the placement round. Not heavily favored here. Splice, the team that everybody just knew was going to at least make it to the finals. Last year's champions. They come out, they take care of business game one. Not even close. 22-minute game. 14 kills to 2 kills. 12K, almost 13K gold lead. Just ridiculous. They come out, it's like, okay, yep, this is exactly what we expected. Don't know what else we need to do. SK, the strong team, but not exactly the team that's going to match up with, Splice and really give them a run for the money. Or so we thought. SK go on to just dominate Splice. The wheels completely and utterly fall off of this team. Splice just can't do anything all of a sudden. They can't kill Belair. They can't kill Paul. They can't do anything, and they just get W keyed at, and they get completely annihilated. A 26-minute game 2, super quick, almost a 16K gold lead, 3 kills to 16. SK completely dominate, play out of their mind. The one thing coming into this tournament that SK did better than anybody else is their 3v3. The way you beat Splice for the last 2 years, if you can neutralize their side lanes and make them beat you in the 3v3, if you can make Aurora and Venenu and Scream beat you, that's how you beat them. Because Scream and Venenu, great players, historically haven't been able to carry a team. That's just a matter of fact. They haven't been able to do it. Last year, it was the same thing with Moswall and with Sino. Different players, but the style is the same thing. You neutralize Cyclone, you neutralize Divios, you neutralize Baskin, you neutralize Solo or Troll. You make Scream and Sino and Vin and Moz beat you, and they can't. They're not that type of player. They are better when they have other people there to set them up. And I think that was the biggest weakness for Splice going up against SK, because SK, Neil, Paul, Sam, best 3v3 in the game. Hands down. Maybe not the best either. Like they're either tied for first, but they're definitely top 3. I think they're the best, but I understand that my opinion doesn't mean anything. We go into game 3. It's a 25-minute game, 20-3. 20K gold lead. Same as game 2. Game 3 goes quick. SK dominate. You can't kill Paul. If you don't kill Paul, you can't win. I think every game that Paul didn't die, he won. Slippery motherfucker is that Paul. And this is when we start to see the trend form. What does Belair play all 3 games? Achilles, Achilles, Achilles. What does Paul play? He plays Merlin, Uller, and Merlin. That's going to be important. Pay attention to what those gods that are being picked are in their wins, because it comes back to be very relevant later. So after that, Splice, the returning champs, knocked out in the first round by the guys who come from the not the minor league. They came from the minor league 2 seasons ago. The guys who came from the open bracket. The guy is Zatman, who's been here older than dirt. Washed up, can't win nothing, is a detriment to his team. Belair, the mediocre solo laner. The guy I'd trade for like a wet pack of peanuts in the solo lane. They come out and they do their job. Belair, starting to frag, having really good games. There was the question of who's going to be able to hold their own in that lane, in that solo. Solo Arturo, the rookie, first time being on this stage. It got to him. You look at the stat lines, you look at what he was able to do, wasn't able to get it done. Maybe a little bit of nerves. I can't say for sure. I haven't talked to the man. It's easy for me to sit here as a pundit and say, yep, stage was too bright, too big for Mr. Solo or Tro. Couldn't handle it. But Belair, been there before. He can handle it. SK, they come out and they win this game, and there's an air about it. They're here to play. I don't think anybody expected them to win this. Them winning this game immediately was like, all right, I don't think we can contribute this to a fluke. This team is real. They have a certain oomph. They've got something behind them. They're looking good. Moving on from there, we had E United and Renegades. Renegades, the other team that looked like they were going to be just world beaters. It was going to be them in the finals. They come out, get punched in the mouth game 1. They lose. They just can't get it done. They look lost at times. They just don't know what to do. Cherio goes 0-5-7. Raffer goes 0-3-6. Doesn't quite matter on the support. Funball goes 3-5. He goes 3-4. Just not able to get it done. Big man on the Honor, 8-1. Ice on the Wheelish goes 7-2. Collis goes 0-18. A heck of a game. 42 minutes long. Renegades fought admirably, but not able to win the game here. There's always been the rumor here. Cherio kind of gets anxious, just nervous on the world stage. And I think that some of that was there. This roster's emotional, but at the same time, they're very calculated. They're very chaotic, but under control. It's a team of paradoxes. They shouldn't be good. They shouldn't work together, but they do. All of the craziness kind of balances out and cancels out and channels into something amazing. And I think they are one of the best Smite teams we've had in a long time. Above individual players, they're like their team cohesive unit as 5. I would argue that SK, they have the best 3v3. I would not say they have the best 5v5. I think both Belair and Zap don't feed into the 3v3 as well as, say, Nika and Funball feed into the 3v3 of Cherio, Dardas, Raph. It's just a whole nother level. Renegades come back, though. They get it figured out. Next game, 28 minutes. 26-3. 20K gold lead. They get it done. Raffer on the Horus instead of the Fafnir. A pick that he has made look amazing. If I'm Raffer, I'm not playing anything else other than Horus. If it's open, I'm taking it. Funball gets the Freya signature pick. Dunks on him. Dardas gets the Jing Wei. Unconventional signature pick. Dunks on him. Cherry gets the Circuit. Nika gets the Osiris. Across the board, just dunking on them. Doing whatever they want. This is the Renegades that we thought was going to come in game 1. And you could tell all of the nervousness, all of the problems from that first game kind of fixed here. They came out to play and just overwhelmed United. United, I think the same boat as SK and Sanguine were probably expected to just take a game off of it, lose game one, win game two, lose game three. Was probably what United was expected to do, or win game one and then lose two games in a row, which is exactly what they do here. Last game, 42 minutes, almost a 30 plus K gold lead, 27-9, 42 minutes. Renegades played this one really safe, made sure to take their time. Dardas goes 10-0 and 12 on the Jingwei. Fumball gets the fray again, goes 9-1 and 12. Raffer on the horse gets in on the action, 3-1 and 16. Cherry on the Erlang, 2-3 and 18. They just get it done. Not caring who's on the other side. I worried that game one from Renegades shows how they can be beat. They're mortal. They bleed. If they bleed, they can die. But still a strong team. They can bounce back. Even though they didn't look good that game when they made it stretch to almost 45 minutes, and that's important. That's kind of what Splice was able to do last year. If they weren't able to win early, just Clown Fiesta, make the game go long. This year they always kind of do the same thing. They just outplay you through sheer force of will and a little bit of luck, but it's not luck what it is. I don't know, that it's very contradictory here. But Renegades win out, and we have our 4 teams going forward. First up, we're in the semifinals. We've got Dignitas and Rival. A marquee matchup, battle of the team fights. A battle of the screw early game. We're going to fight for 40 minutes. The Titans in their own route, in their own way and right, is the word I was looking for. Dignitas and Rival were the 2 teams more at each other's throats, I feel like, than other teams. I feel like they were the rivals to each other. They were the foils to each other, just like Splice and Renegades were the foils to one another. They had more in common. So to see Dignitas Rival, we get that matchup. It's the grudge match, right? We're super excited. But only if Dig can break, that was the other thing too, right? Both of these teams have team curses coming into this game. Dignitas has the choking curse, and Rival has the we've come second at Worlds for forever. Somebody's breaking the curse. And somebody, well, I guess not. I guess they both could, theoretically, both keep their curses intact, right? So Dignitas come up, and they just, everything that they seemingly had learned going into the Worlds was lost. Their biggest problem, hands down, was early game, and they just concede everything to Rival. Now, this set was fraught with controversy. They had an issue going into the tournament with a keyboard causing problems. Now, there's some he said, she said, and how it was handled. There was the players reporting it at the tournament after having dealt with it in scrims, and they never reported that issue when they had the month plus on this patch to report it to the admins and everything, and they didn't. And then it was apparently wide enough known that all of the players knew about it and none of the admins knew about it. So that's problematic right there, right? So they were aware of the issue. They've had issues with it going into this match. They released a post-mortem after the event. They looked back and they, made their own. Hi-Rez made their statement on what happened and how they handled it and what the rules they wanted to put in place were. In game number 1, Trix Tanks plays the Jing Qian and goes idle for a couple minutes. Not a couple minutes. He goes idle for like 30 seconds or whatever and is unable to move. And then Rival get a bunch of pressure and jungle buff and farm and everything like that. And they're not able to remake. There was a bunch of rules made around what they could and could not do to remake. And they, in their statement, they point all of the blame towards the players and to Dignitas. However, that is not the entire truth. There is plenty of stuff that came out then afterwards about how they tried flagging admins down and the admins weren't looking, and then largely they get screwed here. Dignitas gets screwed. It's a 35-minute game, but it's never close. Realistically, they were completely manhandled, gave up too much space to Rival early, conceded too many buffs, conceded too much space and let Rival operate, and they lose. Now that's kind of a theme moving forward. That after that, this Dignitas team is tilted off the face of the earth. Next game, 20 minutes, 7-15, 10k gold lead. It was done. They were just not able to do anything. And at that point, down 2-0, having conceded a bunch based off of what was a computer error, something out of your control, theoretically, sucks. So that team just not able to do anything. But also their drafting was just super odd. I feel like Variety has had amazing showings on the King Arthur. The game 3, they go to King Arthur. They put Cubo on a Pele. It's okay. But Hurry on the Neath, not a big fan of that. Tricks on the Arneo. And then Nate on the Freya. And just teams didn't feel on the same page at any point, really. And so you hate to see it. Nate, unfortunately, retires after this Worlds. And this is his last set. And he doesn't have a bad set. And he's kind of really let down by Tricks and Cuvo. Cuvo just doesn't do anything. And it wasn't able to make anything happen. And Tricks just... something happens with that squad that doesn't allow them to perform, whether it's nerves or whatever it is. There was a lot that went in the set that is controversial, but it's all he said, she said. I don't think we'll ever get a definitive answer on what happened. Rival 3-0 Dignitas. Dignitas continue the tradition of choking at every LAN and never winning. Rival move on to the finals. Next up, we have SK and Renegades. This set also with its own controversies. This set brought about the banning of Persephone. Persephone is no longer allowed in the tournament after this game. Big deal. Big deal. Right? No. This is not the one. This is the next one. Sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit. Persephone is still allowed throughout this whole set. My bad. There's other controversy. There's every set after quarterfinals, every set in the semifinals and every set in the finals had a big controversy to it. The big controversy with the Renegades SK game is that none of the players could hear. After every set played at LAN, Cherio was complaining. Renegades as a squad was complaining every time they'd come over to investigate. they would find nothing wrong. Now, turns out it was the audio mixer messing up when trying to split game audio and voice audio and all of that, and causing problems. And SK figured it out, and none of them were wearing the buds. Renegade still were. So kind of gave SK the technical advantage in the set. Renegades come out strong, look really good. They're handling SK, kind of figures out like how, kind of plays out how we figured. SK is a good team. Renegades is their better across the board. Nika better than Belair, Cherio better than Sam, Dardas better than Paul, Raffer better than Neil, Funball better than Zap. Right? This is all kind of expected. Cherio plays the Kali, Raffer plays the Horus, Nika gets Yorm, and they just crush to a 35-minute victory game one. Game two, Cherio gets the Kali again, crushes. Raffer gets the Horus again, crushes. Funball gets Freya, crushes. They have the game under lock. They are doing exactly what they need to do. They're handling SK. And then the change. 47-minute game. SK come back, take a dub. Paul doesn't die on a Merlin. This was a really awkward game for Renegades. They get King Arthur, Serket, Jingwei, Horus. And instead of going back to the Freya, instead of going to the Poseidon, they go to Zhonghui. And they do this because Zap picks Morrigan. And I understand why you pick the Zhonghui into Morrigan. You know, it effectively takes away one of the transformations that Zap can do because he doesn't get the stacks when he turns into Zhonghui. So it makes that ult just not very good and takes away the prots and everything like that make the Zhonghui good. But it also gives you no burst, which is what you kind of wanted. No objective damage, no burst. Like a lot of the reasons why you've been picking what you've been picking all year. You don't get the burst out of the Poseidon, right? You don't get the objective out of the Freya. So the Zhonghui pick was very questionable to me, and I didn't like it. He goes 6, 2, and 3, but it just wasn't right. And then there's also the rumors that the computers were not very good, and that, you know, Cherio is playing at a slideshow during the game. You know, there's a bunch of problems there, and I think some of that was like allegedly tied into the audio mixer issue and power supplies and keyboards, everything like that. There was so many issues going on. And Renegades lose. And then Renegades move away completely from what they've been doing. They put Funball on the Persephone. They put Raffer on Geb. And it just, as soon as they move away from the stuff that has made them, you know, they lose. Both long games, both 40-minute games, and just stuff not looking right. And stuff they wouldn't normally do. And there's so many question marks on what happened. But SK come out and win. It's remarkable. They beat Renegades in 40-minute games. I mean, that's kind of amazing. Funball on the Persephone, 2 games in a row. Doesn't do horrible, but doesn't really do anything, really. I know Persephone going into this tournament was the best god in the game by far, allegedly, but what they were doing at this point is every game, Belair was getting Achilles and Paul was getting Merlin. That's kind of how all of the sets go. And Renegades banned Uller, Hell, and Morrigan. They banned the Morrigan away from the Zap. Well, I think you still ban Uller, Hell, Persephone, and then you take the Merlin away as your first pick. Funball's played it. He can pile the god very well. And then maybe you give the Morgan away to Zap, but that's fine. I think Funball can, win that matchup. And then what does Paul play? Does Paul play Raijin? I think that is in your favor. I think I give Paul that Raijin there because Raijin's damage is more staggered. It's not, all at once. He's not playing the Cuckoo, so you don't have to worry about that. Uller, burst. He's gonna do a lot of damage to you with his abilities. Hell, gonna burst. Right? I think I take away all of those gods that do a lot of damage all at once. Make him play the Raijin. Make him not able to just blow you up, right? Make him have to be a little more unsafe in his positioning, things like that. But they don't. SK beat Renegades, the other top team we expected to win Worlds. They've beat the two teams we just knew were going to be in the quarters because they had to play each other, and then one of them would be in the finals. SK blowing everybody away, playing at such a high level, and beating Renegades kind of felt at this point, a lot of people were like, well, if they beat Renegades, I think they can win it all. I didn't see it. Rival at this point still had been playing the best Smite. SK, a flip of a coin another way, don't win this game. They don't win this set. They don't advance. Rival have handled both Dignitas and Sanguine with ease. So going forward, our finals game is Rival and SK. Now, this is where we get all of the drama and more drama previously. We get an issue where Panda Cat's computer crashes like 3 games in a row. They have to restart, and there's a first blow that's given up. There's buffs that are lost. There's stuff that keeps happening with an error. And it's the same kind of error that happened in our semifinals game. Semifinals between Dig and Rival. And Dig was denied a remake. So there's that camp. That's, there's that level of like, oh, well, Dig got fucked. And because they got fucked, they tilted and lost, right? So there's a little bit of added controversy that goes around with this. So they restart, and then eventually figure out that, oh, the problem is with Persephone and a way that she interacts with the game and the way that Panda Cat was playing the Persephone. It was really technical. If you haven't checked it out, I would go and check out High Res's skill shots. Not Titan Force, skill shot, or whatever. Cooper, go look up his release, his statement. Smite Pro put out their statement on the whole Persephone thing. Go read it. It's a lot. It's a very good read. And they basically banned Persephone. So that's big to Paul because his god pool is Hell, Persephone, Uller, Merlin, right? Isis. You got to ban all that away. Rival grossly underestimate Paul and everything like that. And not only that, they completely move away from their game plan. Rival up until this point was very much about controlling the early game, getting leads, being aggressive, forcing you into fights that you don't want to take, and really, they're like a control deck, except an aggressive control deck in Magic. And those of you play Magic will get that. But what that means is they don't want you to do anything that they don't approve of, and they want to just whittle you down until you are nothing. That's what Rival want to do. They play Thor in the solo. That's fine. Erlong Shin Jungle, fine. Isis mid, all right, I'm down for it. Ama support Jingwei. Now, I don't necessarily hate all of these picks. I just think they're in the wrong places. I think Ama should have went to Fine OK. I think Erlong should have went to Polar Bear Mike, and I think that Captain Twig should have played the Thor. I think that makes them a much more dynamic team, lets them play a lot better. You put Fine OK on a god that can do a lot more in team fights without going up in the air. It's a little bit of a dicey matchup because Belair, surprise, surprise, plays Achilles again. There's just so much that I feel is lost in just pick bands. SK get Achilles, Hunbats, Hell, Circuit on her. It's like almost a dream draft right there. You Rival just, I feel like, underestimate their whatever their game plan was doesn't work. It's a 29-minute game, 20K gold lead, 20-8. SK take game one in really good fashion. Game number 2, Rival collect themselves. 20-minute game. Just come back, stomp them. 20-7, 15K gold lead. Final K on the Thor goes 7-0 and 6. Panda goes 2-0 and 9 underneath. Looking good. This is okay. They collected themselves. Rivals back. They had their one bad game, right? I believe in them. And then comes the heartbreak. Game number 3 is bad. Rival basically controlled this game throughout and should have won it. This is a game that single-handedly loses Rival Worlds because they lose it in such a way that there's no way you don't tilt. There's no coming back from that game. You mentally are drained and mentally exhausted, and you just can't do it again. They put Final K on a Warrior. They put him on Osiris. They put Captain Twig on Guan Yu. Panda K gets the Merlin. PBM on the Kepri. Arkle and Uller. Belair on the Achilles. You know, he's been playing it all worlds. He looks good on it. Sam gets Thor. Looks good on it. Paul gets Raijin. Remember what I said about, you know, I'll take Paul on a Raijin. It's 3-1. Neil gets the Jing Chen, goes 0-7. Zap on the Hachi. You know, this is a game. Rival had 101 to a 94K gold lead. They had this game. They go in to storm the Phoenix. They go to win the game. And through bad backing and target prioritization and ability usage, get killed, get deicited, and SK come back, run it down mid, win the game. And it's such a blow that as I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, SK wins Worlds. There's no way Rival come back from that, and they don't. SK win game 3, 30-minute game, 20 kills to 10. Paul back on the Merlin. Final K back on the Thor. Just not what I expect. Arkle gets on the side, and not a pick that I would have, you know, thought of him for. You know, when you know the chips are down, your back's against the wall. You know, there's no King Arthur this entire time as well. I think that was a pick that just got vastly overlooked. I don't know. I feel like a lot of these games had really bad pick bans. From a coaching point of view, watching that and then watching the teams concede space and just not do what they needed to do. They just the failure to execute. And I don't want to take away from SK and their win, but with all of the problems with PCs and things like that, like looking back, like Rival threw in a big way and didn't play their game And hats off to SK. They capitalized on it. They came to play. They didn't make the mistakes. Rival did. SK win worlds. That man finally has a world championship ring that he can put on his hand as he's doing those one-handed push-ups, right? But there's always going to be those questions that mar this worlds with what could have been, with technical difficulty, sure. And I know Rival are going to have those questions about, what if we just didn't throw? What if we just weren't shitheads? What if we weren't bad, right? I feel bad for them because that one fight they lost trying to go into the Titan room. That should have been them up. Instead, they get 3-1. All right. That's it for Worlds. That's our breakdown. Moving on, we've got Season 7. Season 7 is going to be interesting. They are doing away with the SML and the Combine, and they're just renaming it, right? So instead, we're going to get a Challenger circuit and the Open circuit along with the SPL. So we'll start with our SPL too. Let me bring up our article here. So the SPL is going down from 10 teams to 8. That's our first big blow. Space Station Gaming coming back, PK, Pittsburgh Knights, Renegades, Team Rival, E United, and Obey Alliance all returning. So we're losing Splice because they don't exist anymore. We're losing Dignitas, we're losing Luminosity, losing several orgs from Smite. And we're gaining Ghost Gaming and Rogue. Those are pretty substantial pickups. Rogue especially is a really great pickup. I'm really excited for them to come in. And the free agency starts November 19th and ends December 16th. So that is when all rosters are finalized. Visa paperwork has got to be submitted by the 23rd, and March 14th is when Season 7 begins. They are required to have a sub and coach, sub or coach. So they have to have 6 players on roster, and you have to pay them. Great changes. There's a lot of good changes. They're also being platform agnostic, so you'll be on the pro games will be on Twitch, Mixer, YouTube, and Steam. Steam, I just read that. That's a new one. I don't think I've ever watched a stream on Steam. I didn't know you could do that. They're also moving the games to Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 3 p.m. every day. So everybody should be able to watch now, which will be fantastic. Should see a lot of growth for the SPL this year. They're also kind of changing the format. We've got playoffs. They got phase 1. Then you got playoffs. Then you got all-star event, and then phase 2 playoffs, and then world championship playoffs, and then worlds, right? So very excited. Basically a lot of the same stuff, changing up some of the point systems, and we're not going to get in the minutia of that, right? The other big changes is they're making the Challenger circuit and the Open circuit, which is going to vastly change how the amateur scene is handled. So there's no longer guaranteed salaries. It's no longer franchised. So the SML is gone, and we've got the Challenger circuit, which is 6 teams per region and is 4 phases, but also has promotion relegation. So if you are in the Challenger circuit, you could be relegated out if you don't perform well. You could also go to LAN, and that's where all the prizing is going to be. To make money in the Challenger circuit, you have to go to LAN. So it's $100,000 each LAN up for grabs. It's a big cash prize. If you don't make it to LAN, you make $14,000 for the team. We went from $10,000 each player a year to $14,000 a team. Pretty rough there. Um, Same thing, league qualifiers happen February 8th through the 29th, and then phase one begins March 7th. We got playoffs, relegations all throughout. Should be interesting. It's going to be Friday and Saturdays at 1 p.m. So directly before your pro league games. And then aside from that, we've got the open circuit, which replaces combine. And it's going to its biggest thing is now there's direct promotion. There's a playoff system where the top open bracket teams can get promoted into the challenger circuit. And the top open circuit team goes to LAN. So is guaranteed a slice of that money. So that's kind of problematic because, nobody, there's going to be a stiff competition in the challenger circuit, right? If I know that I can go down to the open circuit and just dominate and get free lands, why wouldn't I do that? It's going to be an open bracket, so anybody can sign up and join for the open circuit. And I think we're going to see a lot of teams. It's going to be very interesting to see how it's handled and how it goes. I'm excited for season 7. There's a lot of changes happening to the Smite game itself as well. More gods, things of that nature. And I'm excited. On some other stuff, there's been a lot of behind the scenes drama going into season 7. Today, December 4th, we found out that F Dot will no longer be with us at High Res and Smite. He won't be joining us for season as a caster. We don't have all the details on that, but that's a big loss for us. Emilzy has announced that he will no longer be returning for season 7 and cited that it was shady org practices, illegal org practices in the United States, actually, where they were wage fixing all of the orgs kind of banding together and saying, fuck the players, we want more money and we want them to have less money. So a lot of stuff going on in the backgrounds. I'm hearing a lot of rumors that we're losing, a lot of players of Emilzy's caliber. We're losing old heads of the game, people who still got stuff left in the tank. So it's gonna be wild to see what happens with season 7 competitively. I think based on what I'm hearing right now, we're going to have a less competitive year than in season 6. And if things continue this way, season 7 might realistically be the end of competitive Smite. Who knows what's going to happen? This is a watershed moment for Smite, and this could be the swan song, but we'll find out. We'll see. That's it, everybody. That's all I got. Next week, I hope to have an interview for you guys so we can continue talking. Maybe some breaking news will happen. We'll get some rosters, things like that. Thanks for watching. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, everywhere you get your podcasts, basically. So don't forget to, download it from there. Like, subscribe, leave us some comments, and those always help us out. This VOD will be available on YouTube. If you missed any portion of it, you want to go back and watch it later at youtube.com/UGC events. Appreciate all of you guys' support there as well. And until next time, I'll see you around the battleground. Goodbye, everybody.